All right, guys. Our next guest spent his fighting career as one of Ireland's most exciting and beloved fighters, a former Cage Contender featherweight champion. He now coaches at the famous SBG Ireland as well as his own gym, SBG Charlestown, Dublin. He's also been training Conor McGregor for well over 10 years and will be helping him prepare for UFC 205, where he takes on Eddie Alvarez for the UFC lightweight title. He's been known as Rowdy long before Ronda Rousey. Rowdy Owen Roddy, welcome to Submission Radio. What's the crack, mate?
I'm not too bad. Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah. I like the intro, man. Yeah, you'd make anybody sound good.
We put about 7 hours of work into that one. Crafted it with our writers.
None of the other guests on this program are getting any decent questions because we focused on you, Owen. But let's talk about this last week because it's been a crazy whirlwind if you're an MMA fan. I mean, UFC 205 is fast approaching. We spent the week wondering what the main event was. There was no clear main event. People weren't sure if McGregor was going to be on the card. How has this week been for you? And what was it like sort of knowing all along that Conor was going to fight Eddie?
Well, I mean, we had an inkling. We knew Conor had accepted it, but we were all a little bit up in the air whether it was actually gonna go ahead. Conor had accepted that, and I think they had accepted, but there was just, there's always this little bit back and forth for a couple of days before anything is confirmed. So we were a little bit up in the air up until a couple of days ago. But now that it's announced, it's fantastic. There's going to be an amazing main event, and the card overall is after. It did look like it was falling apart, and then the UFC, Dana obviously did some magic and pulled it out of the bag. It's going to be a fantastic card, so I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah. Isn't it funny how you've got this stacked card, you've got 2 title fights, and yet obviously people still looking at it as the card is falling apart because obviously your man, Conor McGregor, isn't there. Just curious, though, because we imagine you guys would have known for a while about this fight, and it was us that was in the dark. When exactly did you find out? What was the day that it was official and you guys all knew?
When it was confirmed, what day is it today? It was about two days before the press conference, 2 or 3 days.
Wow. That
I knew that it was actually confirmed. But I'd talked to Conor previously about a week or so prior, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go," and just waiting to see what the crack is. But it was just a little bit up in the air. But yeah, officially, I found out like 2 days before everybody else, and Conor was straight onto a plane straight to New York to do the press conference.
It's interesting that you mentioned you and Conor spoke because I'm just wondering how much of an input do yourself and John Kavanagh have over who Conor fights next? Is it sort of a group discussion or is it more decided by Conor and his management?
Yeah, it's it's mainly Conor, to be totally honest. Like he whatever he feels is the best option for him, then he'll put it to John, and then John will give his opinion on it, and I'll give my opinion on it. But it's mainly Conor, and I think everybody agreed. Most of the time he'll pick who we want him to pick anyways. Like, I think we'll all be in agreement anyways, but it'll be ultimately Conor's decision. But I mean, the Alvarez fight, I think everybody wants the Alvarez fight. They all, Aldo again, like maybe down the line, I don't know. But I mean, of the people to pick, I think anybody would have said, oh yeah, I would much rather see Conor v Alvarez over Diaz again and over Aldo. So it was a no-brainer pretty much,
Well, I mean, yeah, there is a reason why this fight is so big. I'm just wondering, was there any sort of pressure within the team or any internal pressure that Conor should rematch Jose Aldo and defend the featherweight belt?
No, there was no pressure at all. Like, at the end of the day, it's what makes more sense for the sport. And I honestly believe that what Conor's doing is unbelievable, and for him to be going for 2 titles and to hold them at the same time, it's never been done before. So I mean, you got to back that. I think everybody wants to see it, so everybody, everybody's excited for it. I'm sure Dana and the UFC is excited to see how this plays out.
Well, I'm just curious, what did you think of Aldo requesting his release from the UFC after the news of McGregor and Alvarez came out? Did you get a chance to sort of see the news, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that he has to be released. I don't know. I know it's a bit frustrating by him. He wants his rematch, but I think overall, the majority of people want to see the Alvarez fight over that. He could. I don't know whether he could fight again. In the meantime, it's up to him. I know he wants the Conor fight. I'm sure it will happen if he waits for it. But to be asked to be released, I mean, that's his decision. I don't really have much of an opinion on it. But what I do have opinion on is, the fight that people want to see is Conor v Alvarez. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Well, we were there at UFC 202 to witness the amazing fight between Conor and Nate Diaz. And, we saw obviously Conor on crutches afterwards. When did he actually return to the gym and start training again, Owen?
He was back in the gym moving about 2 days afterwards. He was in Vegas. He was back moving about. He was, you seen the amount of kicks he threw in the Diaz fight, and he obviously caught a few of them on the knee and just really badly bruised his shin. But there was no serious issue with the foot. I think they found a small fracture from a while back, but it was nothing. But the shin itself was just really really bashed up from after the fight. But within a couple of days, he was back. He was back training, moving around in the gym in Vegas. So, there's no issue there. He's 100%, and he was a couple of days after it. But yourself, you're flying on adrenaline during the fight, and then as soon as the fight's over, you start to feel everything, and there is nothing more saying. I mean, anyone that's fought or spars around, when you take a few, you kick a knee with the shin and it goes deep in on the bone, it's very, very painful.
Yeah, no, certainly nothing more painful than that. While we're on that topic, there's a great video of you courtesy of Severe MMA talking about how much your chin was affected after the Emmanuel Fernandez fight and how it took you 2 years to recover. It was a really fascinating watch, by the way. After the war that Conor went through that night, and given what you've been through in the past, was there any part of you that wanted to see him get a bit more rest in between fights?
No, not really, because when you look at, my fight with Emmanuel Fernandez, I got knocked clean out, pure stiff asleep. I lost a couple of minutes memory and all in that fight. I only remember coming around when I was backstage. I don't remember, getting up, walking out of the ring, going backstage, anything like that. That was all gone, and I don't have that memory. But Conor, he was hit, but Conor's so good at rolling with the shots. He never once really got dazed or rocked. He got hit hard a couple of times, but nothing where you could tell he was dazed or really hurt. So, and he very, very rarely. I've seen Conor being hit clean, flush, and I could count on my hands how many times I've seen him being hit cleanly. So, although certain exchanges looked like he was getting hit, but if you look at them very carefully, maybe out of 20 punches thrown, one landed clean, but not, and Conor was kind of rolling with the shot, so it wasn't that bad. His chin wasn't affected at all, and his chin is very rarely touched. So, he'd be able to fight every week.
And yeah, that is an amazing video, by the way. For anyone who hasn't seen it, check it out on Severe MMA of Owen speaking about a lot of things. Just wondering, because obviously UFC 205, it's not very far away. How long have you guys actually been training Conor specifically for this fight? Because you guys would have had sort of an inkling that Alvarez is going to be the guy that he's going to be facing. When did you sort of start training Conor?
Well, no, not, it's kind of really been only confirmed. Conor's been just training the way he has been, or the way he always does. But now will be the 6 weeks out. Now will be specific to Alvarez. But I think Conor said it well as well. Alvarez does kind of fight to a lot of people that Conor's fought already. He kind of fights very similar in the regards that he's a grinder. He's, he swings for the fences. He comes in. He likes to make it a dirty fight. And Conor's fought people like that before. So it's just trying to, from my point of view, it's just trying to, put some shots in there that we think are going to land, or try and walk Alvarez into the shots we want him to walk into, and then obviously avoiding the clinch as often as we can, and getting off and landing those shots. But 6 weeks is more than enough time to do that.
Just quickly, was there any leg injury that was holding Conor back in training recently? Because as you would have heard, Dana White, before this fight was announced, said some stuff about Conor's foot or leg being hurt and him not being able to fight. Was there anything holding him back in training? Was there any truth to that?
No, nothing really. Like, Conor's leg is perfectly fine. So yeah, no. I mean, as I said, after the Diaz fight, he was back moving around within days. So he's good to go. Like, and we have 6 weeks now, so he'll be firing on all cylinders from now till the fight.
Talk to us about the actual training camp specifically, Owen, because Conor was sort of asked this at the press conference. They didn't really answer the question. How will the training camp be structured? Will it be set and precise like for Nate Diaz and at UFC 202, or will it sort of revert back to the old style where it was a bit more spontaneous?
No, I think it'll be similar to the Diaz, where everything will be a lot more structured. The type of cardio he'll be doing, he'll three or 4 days on, whatever cycle we decide to do, but everything will be structured to a T, and he'll have to stick to it. And I think seeing what he done in the last fight with Diaz, being able to go up that way, being able to go 5 rounds with a guy that's a lot heavier, that proved it worked. So we don't need to change it. It doesn't need to be changed. Everything worked the last time around, so it'll work again this time.
All right. Well, Conor McGregor has said that he's been whooping that style for a long time. How do you compare Eddie to Conor's past opponents? And do you agree with Conor that he fits the mold of Conor's past opponents?
Yeah, I do, in a sense. Now, Jesus, no disrespect to Alvarez. He's a great fighter and stuff, but he does move similar to a lot of the people that Conor's fought. Like, and even when Conor's fought strikers and stuff, they all become that type of fighter. When Conor lands, you become a panicked wrestler, like, and that's what's going to happen. Conor's very clean, and when it comes to a couple of exchanges, Alvarez is going to feel the difference in accuracy and the difference in power, and he will start to wrestle. And that's what they all do. So, I mean, Conor has fought that same type of person all his career. Alvarez is a great wrestler, so there is things that we'll be working on with Conor to make sure that Alvarez can't keep a hold of him, can't keep him against the fence. But, Conor's going to land, and it's just, I think it's going to be a matter of time before Alvarez goes to sleep, to be totally honest.
I mean, obviously Eddie has stated in past interviews that you mentioned the wrestling, that he's mentioned that wrestling is the easy path to victory against Conor, and how he gets frustrated when guys don't opt for that route against him. So, safe to assume that wrestling will be a big part of his game plan. Will there sort of be an added focus on wrestling and wrestling defense in this camp? And how do you see Conor overcoming that aspect of the fight, Owen?
Yeah, I definitely think, like, we've got really good wrestlers in the gym. Like, for the Mendes fight, we had Sergey Pakulski. He's a Moldovan national champion. He's the wrestling coach in SPG, and Conor works with him non-stop every week. He does a couple of sessions with Sergey. It's just Sergey hasn't been in the picture because the Diaz fight, Sergey's a lot smaller, and the body type is totally different. We were expecting we're expecting a striking match with Diaz. That's what we obviously got. So we had different people in, but I'm sure Sergey will be involved in this camp, and there's a lot of small, stocky wrestlers in the gym, Eastern European guys that we will be utilising as well. So, yeah, we have all the areas covered.
Well, Eddie at the press conference said to Conor that he doesn't have a shot and that his coaches know that he doesn't have a shot, and anybody that knows about fighting knows it. What do you make of that one, of those comments that he made?
Yeah, I think he's trying to convince himself more so than anybody else that he has a shot. Like, at the end of the day, Conor's went in and proved it time and time again. You can say what you want, but the proof is in the pudding, and who's done what he's done? Nobody, But I think you can kind of see in Eddie's eyes, like from what I looked at, it looked like he was trying to convince himself more so than anybody else. Now, at the end of the day, like anybody, when you're in there, I'm sure Eddie's going to give it his all, but I just don't think he has the skill set to beat Conor, to be totally honest.
Talk to us a bit more about that skill set, Owen, and just compare sort of Conor's striking compared to Eddie's striking. What do you sort of make of Eddie's striking? You mentioned before about how he likes to brawl and he really likes to swing for the fences. How do you sort of prepare, I guess, Conor for the striking of an Eddie Alvarez as opposed to Nate Diaz? What are you doing different in training? What's the specific preparation? Is it speed, power, timing, volume?
Yeah, I just think it's, in regards to Alvarez, like, he does swing for the fences, and he just be unstable at times and stuff like that. So, it's just trying to capitalize on that and getting out of the way of those big long shots and then putting the shots in straight afterwards. And I kind of, there's no better man in the game to do that, to be able to make you miss and fire the shots and land clean than Conor. There's nobody else in the game that does that. So we will just go over a few different, we'll go over some shots that we think are going to land, and then we'll go over some setups to put them in positions where we can land the shots that we always land,
And Owen, we appreciate the time. Just a few more questions before we let you go.
Don't worry about it, man.
Okay, awesome. Well, this will be Conor's first fight back at lightweight in almost 3 years. Do you feel like this is the optimal weight class for him, and what improvements are you expecting to see?
This is for me. This is it. This is where you're going to see the best Conor McGregor. I was talking to somebody else about this the other day. Fighting at welterweight, it's hard for Conor to maintain his high output. For 25 minutes, he's not a welterweight, and he done it. He did it against one of the toughest fighters in the game, against Diaz, and but it's just that's not his weight category. And then when the 145, he does a lot to get the weight off. He makes the weight perfect. But I don't know how much he's recovering in that 24 hours. I can't imagine him getting back to 100% in that 24 hours when he fights at 145. And you see what he does at 145. But at 155, if you look at some of the fights, the Booting are fighting Cage Warriors, he just looks so good at that way. He's, that's the way he was, he was supposed to be fighting at. And I think you'll see the fastest, the fittest, and the sharpest, in regards to his mind, the sharpest McGregor you'll ever see now at lightweight.
I feel like it's almost a homecoming for him. This is the weight class that everybody's been waiting to see him at and wanting to see him at. And, I think also staying at 155, theoretically, you would assume that it would be tempting for him there because obviously, his lifestyle changes. He can, I guess, eat a little bit more, not have to worry about that brutal cut to 145. Do you think he'll ever return back to featherweight, though?
I'm up in the air. I don't actually know, to be totally honest. You never know. Like, as I said, Conor kind of controls the way who he wants to fight and whatnot. The 145 weight category, I really don't know. Maybe if Edgar had to beat Aldo, then it would have been a more tempting fight. But the fact that he beat Aldo, fairly, obviously in 13 seconds, it's not as tempting to go back down there. But who knows? Like, Conor could just turn around and say, look, I'm going to go back and do this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go back and sort Aldo out. And he will. And he could do it. Like, he can definitely make that weight. You know, it is hard. It's difficult, but he can do it. And the last weight cut against Aldo was the best cut he's ever had to 145. Like, it was the best I'd ever seen him. The comparison between that and the Mendes, you know, they were the difference. There was, you know, it was just a complete. The Aldo weight cut was perfect, and he was in great form for the cut and everything. So he can do it, and the last one he's done was perfect. So he could do it again. But who knows? Who knows what's around the corner? I never know. That's what's so exciting about being part of Conor's team. You never know what's next. Like, you really don't. Like, like after the Diaz fight, I was like, all right, well, we'll go back down and do Aldo, or we might do Diaz again. And then the Alvarez thing popped up. Like, and now that's what we're doing. Now it's New York. It's crazy. It's exciting, and it's unbelievable. But that's the ride we're all on. We're kind of like, who knows where we're going next? You know, it's great.
Yeah, you guys will headline the first ever fight event on Mars one day out there in space. Yeah. But let's talk.
Two Martians, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you'll have all the title belts in Mars as well. But let's quickly talk about the team, because you mentioned how you guys have had a great run. Now, we know you and John Kavanagh awfully have slightly different predictions to Conor and how his fights play out. You mentioned earlier on in this interview that you see Eddie Alvarez going down. But if you had to sort of predict on how it happens, do you sort of see a clear way in where he gets stopped?
Yeah. I always say I never really change my prediction, because I see what Conor does day in, day out in the gym. I see how clean his striking is, and I see how powerful he is. So I always give them the first, the second round, late in the first, because Conor needs to work out, you know, what shots are, when the shots are going to be available, and when to put them into play. But once he lands, it's a slippery slope. And although I said, you know, I knew Diaz was going to be tougher, but I still said, like, I know, like, I could see him, you know, finishing Diaz in the first or second. And we dropped Diaz 3 times in that first and second. Like, any other person is out. But you watch, it doesn't take him more than 2 rounds, you know. And I think 2 rounds is more than enough time for Conor to land clean.
Wow.
And once he lands clean, then it's a countdown. How long can the guy stay in there? Or how lucky can they be to get a hold of him and stall stall the clock? And I honestly think, like, Alvarez has been knocked out. He's been dropped a few times and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's not good knowing that when you're going into fight Conor McGregor. That, I mean, once if you've been dropped before and you're going in fighting Conor McGregor, there's a very, very high chance that you're going to be dropped again.
This is going to be a crazy, exciting fight. All right, Owen, just before we let you go, we really, really appreciate the time. Just quickly, you mentioned John Kavanagh and coaches. Just want to get your thoughts. What do you think about this idea that Kavanagh threw out there recently of a coach versus coach season of The Ultimate Fighter? Would you be interested in something like that?
I didn't even hear this yet. That would be awesome. Yeah, coach versus coach. Because, you know, people don't realize, like, a lot of these coaches in the game now, you know, are making their name off already bringing really high-level MMA fighters into their camp. They're already established fighters, and then they're piggybacking off them. Like, you watch them, any of the guys that came out from SPG were born and bred there. They came from nothing, no backgrounds. John built them all, you know, and that's what he's still doing to this day. So, you know, anyone questioning his coaching ability, they're insane, because, you know, he takes people like that have nothing, no striking, no grappling, nothing at all. From a day one beginner, he takes them to, you know, the highest level, the best in the game, you know. But coach versus coach would be very interesting to see, you know, what they do. Yeah, it would be a very exciting season, I think.
Yeah, well, let's have a little bit of fun here. Who would be on Team SBG? It would obviously be yourself, John Kavanagh, but who else would you throw on that team with you?
We've got a lot of good guys. We'd obviously have to have Sergey. We would have to have a couple of the maybe Arik, the very high level BJJ black belt as well. So we'd have a few there, but it would definitely be a great season to watch. So stick a word in, hopefully, and we can get that going, you know.
I gotta ask, because obviously the ratings would be big for this one. Would you secretly be hoping that it's Team SBG versus the coaching staff of Team Diaz in the finale?
Yeah, that would be pretty cool, man. We've had our run-ins with them, but that's a great. You know what? I can't wait till I'm 60, looking back on all of that crazy shit that went on. Like,
yeah,
the two DS fights were just they were the business, man. To be totally honest, it was just mental. Like, but you can see the respect between Conor and Nate after both fights, like, you know what I mean. But crazy that the DS crew were all being mental. But it was a good buzz.
Well, there you guys have it. Coach Rowdy Owen Roddy. You can catch him on Twitter at Rowdy Owen Roddy. He also has great vlogs on YouTube at SBG Charleston. They give you a great behind-the-scene look. Actually, you had some really good ones, Owen, and I'm surprised more people didn't take notice. We were sort of in the media room showing everybody to make sure they got their head across it. I'm sure you'll have one for UFC 205, so we look forward to that. And if you guys would like to train with him, get on down to SBG Charleston, where he teaches the classes and shares his wealth of knowledge. I mean, how could you miss out on that, guys? Owen, thank you so much for your time today. It went a little bit longer than we thought, but we really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on the program.
No, great fun, lads. Anytime. Cheers, pal.